Basically, what I do, I help founders to be more structured and work more efficient and understand all the processes. So that's quickly about the work I do, but simultaneously, I'm trying to catch a wave with servant. Last time was in Bristol, and it was awesome. So I recommend it everyone.
Lovely. Let's go back then and kind of think about where you started from, because a lot of people want to start businesses. You're obviously in a more kind of service-centric business. It's not really the case that you can just, graduate school one day, wake up and be like, yeah, I want to go start in there. Obviously, you have to give the years of experience beforehand. Can you talk about those years of experience you built up before starting your own company?
Yeah. All 6 years before, when I was in startup world, I thought that I would never, ever open any company. I would be totally fully employed all the time. But just half a year ago, I started thinking about consumer psychology and data analytics from this perspective, looking at the operations. So I understood that probably if you are a more narrow down specialist and you know what can be improved in some small cases for startups, you can be even more, the founders can benefit more from your ideas rather than you are so generalist. So before, I was working as chief operating officer in the Ukrainian American startup Fuel Finance. And simultaneously, I was a fractional CEO working with different business models. I was working with real business, beauty salons, dental clinics. I was working with agencies, compliance, etc. And I believe that all that experience of different business models made me thinking that probably one day I can be an expert in operations, knowing how various business types work.
Well, there's a range of different places as well, all different types of backgrounds, all industries. What was your favorite to work in and why?
That's an interesting question. My first job was related to sales operations. I was working for Upgrades, Ukrainian-based company, and I was setting up sales metrics, sales analytics in Zoho from scratch. So for me, that's the most remarkable experience, because I remember I was still in a university and they were teaching me all the economic stuff, how it should work in a real world. But then I came to this Upgrade, and my commercial director, she asked me like, do you know what does it mean, deals, contacts, and how to make dashboards? And I was like, oh, so a real world. So that was kind of an experience which was my favorite one, I believe, in comparison with others.
I love that, because I think you make a really good point. It's like I experienced this myself, especially when you go to work in a more corporate environment. You are shielded from a lot of the reality if you're kind of like a junior employee. If you're working in finance, for example, and your job is just like pushing paper or doing Excel or whatever, you're shielded from what the revenue generating activities are, which is obviously going out, meeting clients, kind of deals. I think what you're saying there is that you were still in uni, in college, and you were thrust straight onto the front lines and you had to do the work for yourself. You had to figure out how to stand on your feet very quickly. I think that's a really formative experience. It's something essential that, especially if you want to become an entrepreneur and get up the learning curve as quickly as possible, you need to go head first. Like, you need to be on the front line as quickly as possible. Can you take away that kind of like the one key learning you had from working at Fuel, from working in your past in sales, that you've taken forward into your new business?
The more and the faster you try, the better and the better result you're gonna have. So previously in my uni, I was nailing all the processes. I mean, my homework, all the articles. But when I went to a real work and I had to do a lot of things, I understood that, okay, the faster I do these mistakes, the better I understand how it works. So that's the main key takeaway, faster and more. And that will bring you to the result. At least that's my formula.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes, right? Fail fast, all of that good stuff. Yeah. So true, like when you're in school everything is in boxes and you're trained like a monkey almost, like get this A, pass this grade and this and that. Don't make mistakes, you get punished for mistakes. That's a lot of people's childhood, right? You get into the real world, it's not like that. And it takes a huge mentality shift to actually overcome that. It's a really interesting one. So let's talk about then kind of like the early days of your startup, which is obviously still very early. You started it like, if I'm not mistaken, a few weeks ago, a few months ago. How did you go about getting your first customer there?
The first customer, it wasn't a big magic. It was a referral, but I would rather speak about the first customer who was outbound, and that was a huge deal. So at first, I was really scared that I'm gonna sleep under the bridge, and that I would have nothing to eat. And back those days, I thought, okay, if I have referrals and I have already one client, probably others may need this as well. So I have to understand what am I selling, because my friends just recommended me as a operations generalist. She will do everything for you. But the hardest thing for me was to understand what I sell and usually who wants to buy it. So I had approximately 100 calls with founders during 3 weeks to understand what they want to buy and to formulate it in the right sentences. Because at the very beginning, I remember I was spending hour on a call explaining founders what am I doing, what is Notion, why I mentioned those tools. And only afterwards, when I started asking those people about their pain points, I had my personal Notion where I wrote down all these pain points. And only after this, I understood that, okay, probably I am selling them time economy, that I'm helping them to save time for their product. Because the issue usually my founders and my clients face is that they don't have any time for operations because they want to be involved in product. However, once they started being involved in the product, they cannot scale because they have no operations. And that's a funny point because I have already changed my positioning in Notion, because Notion, my website is based on Notion. So I changed it for, I believe, 25, at least 25 times, because every time I was changing, okay, I do this or I do this. So it's kind of a funny way how I was changing what I really sell. But to be honest, it's still a process, and I still change from time to time my wording and even visuals, which I show to my founders.
That's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about those changes then. Well, obviously, it's kind of still in the state of flux and evolution. But right now, kind of what is your 30-second pitch of Jane? What are your best offerings?
Oh, James, I wasn't prepared. I have my business only for 1 month. My pitch is still 15 minutes.
Okay, so what do you, let me rephrase that. What are you finding that customers want the most from you? When you come in and you say, I'm Jane, I'm a great at ops, I can do all of these things, I'd like to use Notion, I can help speed up your process at 10x. What did they say? Okay, we really want you to help with X.
Mm-hmm. So if we speak about this 30-second pitch, I would say that I do turnkey operations because usually I set up everything from scratch up to high-level processes, meaning that I help founders with my operations checkup at first to understand what they have, what's the picture, where they have gaps, either in recruitment or marketing or sales, or as we were speaking, they have already all tools set, but they don't have any automations. So that's the first thing I provide them with the operations checkup and understanding where are those gaps. Then, if they are ready, we move forward and I help them describe those main business processes, saying that, okay, right now that's the as is. So usually I describe them with RASI approach, seeing that probably at one stage of your process, you have 10 people. But why should you, if you have 10 people in your company, all of them to be involved in one stage of process? Probably it's not necessary. So the next thing, I help them analyze this process, main business process, and understand what the process should be. So, and then the long process takes place. Why? Because we are engaged in implementing that process. So I train operations manager or junior chief operating officers in a company's the company's, because they have sometimes junior positions and they need to be trained. So I help founders to train their ops managers, project managers to implement that process. And after it's implemented, we can think about automation. So I say them, okay, you use 4 tools. Probably we can sync them, or we can add additional information about your users if you want it to have for your customer success management, for instance. So to cut the long story short, I usually help them better understand all the processes they have, describe them, and afterwards either optimize or automate and train their internal staff how to work with them. So once I leave, they still have this knowledge inside their company.
Did you ever think about going into private equity?
No.
You sound like you'd be excellent, right? Yeah, consultancy. There's a lot of parallel paths. I think it's very important to add to anyone listening. You've shown a great path there that if you do work in something like you work in management consultancy and you're used to looking at the operations of business behind the curtain, so to speak, there's an easy way to spin up your own agency if you have kind of the moxie and the hustle, which you do because you went out and did 100 calls in a couple of weeks, which is absolutely crazy. Talk about that then in terms of determination, because there must have been like a turning point for you where you said, okay, this is enough. I don't want to work for someone else. I want to go out and do this on my own. But, I know a lot of people, some of them quite introverted, who would say, the thought of going out and doing 100 calls, completely terrifies me. Talk about how you got over that and why you thought that was the right time to actually put yourself out.
Good question, James. Kind of a psychology talk. So now, if we speak about the first point, I believe that was half a year ago when I started thinking of switching to consumer psychology. That was a point where I understood that, okay, operations purely in a long term won't be that interested for me, even with IE or data analytics. So, sorry, that was my favorite cat. So half a year ago, I thought, okay, if I'm a switcher, what should I do? And I started applying to, I had 140 companies probably all around the world who were searching or even not searching for junior data analyst or junior quality researcher. And you would never guess, I didn't receive any answer. First of all, because I didn't have nor statistical nor mathematical background. And the second thing, that usually those companies are so small because they work as a consulting. So they have just 3 people on board and then they don't hire anyone. And I thought, okay, if the world doesn't want me to be hired in consumer psychology, I should do something else. And I decided that probably I should integrate it into my business. So operations is an entry point for me right now, sooner to understand where this consumer psychology can be ingrained into operations, both into HR, recruitment, into product analytics and marketing as well. But that was a logical thing, which I understood for myself half a year ago. But if we speak about psychology, I believe that all like last 3 years, I believe I had this inner feeling that I want to have freedom. I want to go to museum or gallery at 12 a.m., for instance, and don't care if I have to do something now or not. It sounds like, I don't know, maybe childish a little bit, but I really wanted to have this freedom. So I believe that my mentality was preparing me to this point, to this September, when I decided to say, like, okay, stop, let's do this, and to have this 100 calls. And it wasn't just of the scene of pure internal motivation. It was also from my desire to have money, because as I some time ago mentioned to you that I really wanted to uh, to still live in London, to live in my apartment. And as I didn't have any money, I had to think about materialistic things. So one of my drivers was to earn at least some money. And to be honest, in this case, either I am introvert or extrovert. They didn't work for me. I had a desire which was stronger than this.
Love it. It's a fantastic story. And then I'm really interested in the psychological part as well, because firstly, I don't think it's childish. I think everyone goes through that. Everyone wants that freedom that they got back. And if anything, childish is a compliment, because we almost all want to like capture that energy that we had in our childhood, that kind of curiosity of like looking at everything like, wow, this is so interesting. And as we get older and older into our 20s, even into our 30s, that kind of love for life just starts to decline a bit, and we get used to the monotony. And I think as early as possible to break free from that is absolutely essential.
Cool.
But talk to me about these like 100 calls, because I do this thing as well. Like most of my calls, obviously, do podcasts or try to talk to someone who may have like a business outlet for me, or that I'm trying to develop a business relationship with. And sometimes I like to jump on calls and just talk to people about life, meet someone interesting that I otherwise wouldn't talk to. I'm sure from your 100 calls with your founders, you came across some like characters or people that maybe challenge your personal biases or perceptions of the world. Can you talk about what those calls were like and what you learned from them? Maybe focusing on the stuff that was kind of out of the ordinary and unexpected.
Interesting. The first scene, which was really cool for me when I just started, was that people easily agreed to go on a calls, even if they didn't know me at all. Because before the whole year, when I was here in London, I didn't try to socialize. Because back to Ukraine, before the war, I was such a social person that I spent every evening going offline to a meeting, that maybe I was tired a little bit of that. So I decided to have this kind of a gap in socializing for a year or for a year and a half. And yeah, when I started again to socialize, it was like, I don't know, probably like a new skill. I had to understand again how to talk to people. Again, it's another culture. And the main thing, which I probably understood, I had calls not only with British people, I had them with US, with European people. So difference in culture, that was one interesting thing. But another thing was also connected with insights. People, I was speaking also with academics, for instance, in consumer psychology. And back, it was like in April, I believe so. So at that point, I was speaking with them, and I understood that sometimes we live like in different universes. So people in the academic world, for instance, they are so smart, but just in this direction of research. So I was fascinated how smart they are. Simultaneously, they are not interested in moving further with this research. So they did a quite cool research, and it can be implemented in business. However, they don't care about business. They just do this for their internal purposes, like to do research, to discover something, and then they just leave this research. So that's just an example, what I uncovered for myself, that sometimes our internal motivation and our motives can be so different, and that it is so important to take this into account when you sell something, when you communicate with people, that probably, for instance, and no, for me, when I speak with a founder, it can be a motive of understanding his business, for him to show off a little bit because he just got fundraising. And when you understand that you are going on a call, it's such an important thing to be prepared to speak around the motive of a person rather than your own, or to combine them and not only imply your personal motives. So that's was one of the main insights, I believe. And others were related to my product and related to challenges in business. Are you interested to hear them as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if we speak about business side, it was interesting that most of the founders they wanted to help me that much because I was offering for some of them pro bono or just operations checkup. They wanted me to help that much that they, at first, even agreed to have this call with me. Afterwards, they proceed further. And at the third touch, sometimes I understood that they even have good operations inside, and they just trying to make things that sophisticated. So I was shocked that part of the world already have some operations, good operations inside. And the thing is that they want to make it even more automated. They have Zapier, they have Notion, they have all the tools set, but they tell me, okay, Jane, look at this picture, what you can do with this. And that was one of the biggest findings, that my challenge is not only to set up everything from scratch, because I know how to do it. That's easy when people don't have anything to do a sophisticated operations for them. But when people already have these sophisticated operations, how can I add value there? And that is still a challenge. So founders which have a request on something sophisticated, on combining it with AI, on trying this ATIO, which I mentioned, you like new CRMs, or they search for products daily on a product hunt and they ask me, okay, did you hear about this product? Then I do a research and I understand that they launched a week ago. So that's the level of founders which I understood I want to target, and that's the people with whom is really interesting to deal with and to help.
Interesting but hard, right? I mean, you're having to learn about products that are week old, and I imagine, I know me in that scenario, I'll be like scrambling around trying to learn everything as quickly as possible. Does that not get really stressful for you? Is it not Is it just not more simple for you if you say, here's my template, I'm only going to pick companies that have really shit back-end ops that really need improvement from the ground up and focus on them? Because it feels like you're creating yourself a big headache. Or am I completely wrong there? Please correct.
Good thing here, and I was wondering about this even yesterday. I was thinking, why would I try new outbound messages for a real business if I already know that all IT companies outstaff and outsource need my services, and I already know how to work with them? Why would I do this? But the answer is, for me, business is about a challenge or a headache, in another word, because I don't want to have it stable just to have money. I want to be scared all the time a little bit that I cannot deal with something or that I won't handle that. So that's my kind of internal driver or craziness. I don't know how to call it. That
entrepreneurial spirit. That's really cool.
Yeah, in another way, yeah. That I was working last 2 years with the online business only. But I decided, why not to work with restaurants and help them set up a franchise? That's really cool. I don't know anything about internal operations in restaurants. Why not to do a pro bono? Understand?
Because any sane person would be like, the restaurant industry is in minefield and it's horrible, and the margins are so small and it's really painful and it's very stressful. But James was like, no, I'm going to go head first for it. Give me the biggest challenge possible.
It's James. I can say the same about you with your challenges and your ambitious of new things you will be doing. So yeah, but I believe that all ambitious people, that's not about good characteristic or bad. I'm just saying, like, the same as introverts or extroverts. All ambitious people are dumb enough continue finding all these challenges. And it's not just about me. We are all, to certain things, to a certain stage, try to find something we are unaware with, not to be stuck, because otherwise when I'm 30, I will be just dying from the dull things I'm doing. So I don't want to be there at 30.
neither. You kind of like running away from that, right? I always think of it as like you're going to regret not fulfilling your potential, so put yourself through the hard work now, and you will be rewarded. I said this to my friend yesterday, literally yesterday. Actually, it's like don't stress too much about what you exactly you're going to be doing in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Just know that you're in the right area, doing something you like, and put your arse and do the most work you can possibly, work hard as possible, and you will get somewhere. Like these two equations, very, very simple. They will add up to something great as long as you put the time and the work in. And that kind of helps you absolve a lot of the stress of like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing here? Or look at this new shiny object, should I go over here I wanted to talk as well because you're talking a lot about kind of, taking on these new challenges, going to work in new industries that you don't know. And a lot of people listening might be thinking, okay, AI is here. It's not even around the corner anymore. AI is right here. And I know for a kind of the trajectory of a lot of service-based startups, which is what yours is at the moment, eventually becomes quite productized and eventually goes towards the realm of like a software product, for example. Is that something that's on your horizon? How are you thinking about incorporating these software elements, particularly AI, which of course, as we already know, is being used to accelerate a lot of these back-end processes?
Interesting, because just yesterday I was reading a lot of tweets about content creation with AI. I know it's not about software, AI in software or automations, but still interesting that, for instance, all the people who are, I don't know how to say, who earn on writing text, for instance, they write different researches and publish them, which tools have they used and which tools did them help to continue writing daily, for instance. And I don't know, is it a worse thing or happy thing about this that they still, I haven't found from all those tweets anything which they would highly recommend. Meaning that it's here. Yeah, it's not even on the verge. We are not on the verge of facing with AI, but it's still not on the right level. But if we speak about texts, because why I started with this topic, because I wanted to use it for myself, for my LinkedIn and cases. If we speak about summarization or changing some of the words to better words, I would say that I was disappointed because I can feel from the text that it's still generated. I don't know how, but this human note is totally taken away from this text. So that's if we just speak shortly about text. But if we speak about tools, when I was thinking about switching from a service into a tool and into a product, I started thinking about AI for sure, because I thought, what if we take all the information a client has and all the meetings they recorded, all the processes, and just analyze that with AI and ask AI to write those processes as they are and based on the experience as they should look like. So, and I was shocked because it's not anymore a dream, because I know some of the tools which help analyze existing processes if you insert the ready text. Of course, it's not creating a text, but it's already analyzing the description of a process and offering some changes, and then even building connections either between, Zoho, Pipedrive, for instance, with Notion, with your Calendly, with your Gmail. So these tools already do this. So that it would be stupid to be in operations, for instance, and to ignore these things. But another aspect is so many founders are still not on the verge of even having at least certain level of operations, that they don't have this demand on high quality operations. And therefore, I mentioned to you a case 10 minutes ago that I was shocked with one of the founders who wanted me to make the processes sophisticated. So to conclude this story, I want to say that once we have some of the requests from founders that they have already well set operations and they want to be them on the new level, I believe that more operations consultants will dive deeper into IE and understand how it works. But everything depends on a demand. And I'm not sure that at this stage, for instance, I'm ready to refuse from advising and consulting and dive into product IE driven directly.
Do you think the industry still needs that face-to-face content? Because I think you touched on something really interesting. This is something that I kind of echo, which is a lot of people using like ChatGPT and stuff like that to write the emails and stuff like that. But I think it gets to the point where, it's completely losing the human aspect to it. And if I'm producing a product, be it, even if it's a social media post, a blog piece, a message sent to someone, part of my, personality and humanity is in that message. It's quite personal. And as soon as you start getting AI to do all of these creative aspects for you, you start to lose that humanity. So I still think there's a place for a human where AI can step in, which is what you said. It's definitely with the optimization, with kind of augmentation. So doing things that humans otherwise couldn't do. I personally have a problem when it starts to jot in and try to do things that humans can't do, because it's like, that's when people's minds start running and AI is going to take over. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you subscribe to that thought philosophy, but a lot of people kind of like, well, this AI humanism. But I think what you talk about there is that there's no avoiding, right? In terms of AI and ops. It's a very single swim environment right now. Going back to my original question, do you still feel like there needs to be a human face in there, as in yourself?
I would say that people buy, how to say it correctly, people buy me rather than they buy what I set up to them. Meaning that they buy my energy, they buy my eye contact, they buy my ability to hear them, to ask them what they want to be asked, and to give them what they want. Sometimes a little bit critic, sometimes a little bit of jokes. What I'm trying to say here is that at this stage, there is no AI tools which can add this empathy or this energy other people want and other people buy. That's why I mentioned that, especially in consulting and in things where you kind of buy advice, you are not just buying advice. You are buying a person's spirit and real person's energy. Therefore, particularly in my case, I believe that I'm not sure that even in 1 or 2 years it will be possible to interchange myself with a robot. But still, I have read already one article that researchers started teaching empathy of a robot of empathy. Therefore, it's not the end. So one day, maybe even consulting will have this interchange with a robot. But at this stage, I am not sure.
I mean, would you subscribe into this whole like robot friends, robot boyfriend, robot girlfriend? Or do you find that completely creepy and out of the picture?
For me, it's a little bit creepy. I don't know why. I wouldn't even say that I'm old school, but I'm so people person, how to say that I appreciate this vibe that much. And I kind of fulfill myself with this vibe, simultaneously sharing it, that I'm not sure, probably to test it out yet.
And then the question is like, you can go really deep with it, right? Because people ask like, what is consciousness? And what actually defines a person? Because, you can speak to a person over the phone and it's just their voice ultimately. You don't necessarily need to be in person with them. They don't need a body or anything. But if AI gets good enough at being able to imitate a person's emotions and a person's like speaking patterns, the way they respond to people's questions, which is, not that far off, I would say, a couple of years until it becomes really driven. At the moment, we still have like quite robotic, as you said, it's quite easy to tell when it's a robot and not a human. The question is there like a point where it becomes 90%, 95% like a human, where we're like, yeah, it's close enough, and people just kind of learn to live with it? Personally, I agree with you. I'm a people person. I love to speak with people in person as well. Even talking over Zoom is not ideal. I would much prefer to be in person with you. But it just feels like the more you read, the more you get opinions from people, and it seems to be headed that way. That more and more people are actually comfortable with just talking to an AI, provided that it becomes close enough approximation to a human.
Interesting, because I was on a lecture of one of the consumer psychology consulting here in London. It was like in September, and they, I'm not sure if they were conducting this research or they just were presenting it, but anyway. So the research was about discovering feelings people have when they hear from bank a person calling them, or a robot calling them. And that the level of trust to robots was so low that people even wrote emails to a bank asking them, like, because sometimes you need to like verify yourself, and they ask you different personal questions. So those robots were doing this, and people as well. And people were writing to bank like, today I received a call from you, but it was like a robot calling me, so I didn't tell anything. Am I right that I did so? So speaking about this verge of 95%, that's interesting, because probably the generation right now, which is born right now on the stage where they already know from the very beginning that there is an AI, there are robots, I believe their level of trust will be higher for sure, even in comparison with ours. So it's just a matter of a decade, I believe.
And is it going to go towards like a Wall-E environment where everyone's just like sitting in their little cars and not interacting with the world and just looking through a screen and using our VR headsets? Do you see it going that way in our lifetime or not?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, because even with friends, if you have a party where no one uses a phone, you perceive it as the highest gift and the highest involvement. But usually, even during your one-on-ones, people receive like notifications. Even I didn't have any notifications until the September, but when I started using X, I decided to subscribe on notifications. So now I know of what and when 100 of my followers post. So unfortunately, it's going that way, that direction. But I believe that this desire of having a personal contact and having this closeness will not be excluded, because it's still a human nature. And did you hear about this woman who earns like $200 in the US because she sells her 1 hour hugs with people? So all her clients pay her $200 to hug her for 1 hour, because the main reason they don't feel that they are even connected with their friends. So they are so separated from the world. They are stating that because of Instagram, Twitter, etc., that they need this closeness, and which they can only receive from from a stranger. So this internal feeling still exists, and it won't disappear. That's just a matter of time when we understand that we are bad not having it. I see that you are you are surprised with this woman.
I don't know. It's not even surprised, because I know humanity now. I know we're like more just kind of like despairing. It feels so dystopian, right? It feels like late stage capitalism, particularly when you're living in the West, when our lives have become so easy to a point that we have everything at our fingertips, that, lots of people stop craving other, stimulation, other experiences. They stop going out into the world, experiencing things. They choose to live life in their bubble. Because I just looking at the screen and what would the information just from here. It's quite a sad future. But I'm an optimistic person, so I don't want to talk too much about doomerism. I think AI is just so powerful. Area I'm interested in as well as like preventative stuff. So I think two good examples would be kind of like satellite imagery. So for climate change purposes, predicting weather patterns, predicting more accurately, when hurricanes are going to occur, predicting which areas of the globe are emitting the most greenhouse gases and where to focus and stuff like that. That's the big area that's coming up. And the second would be on a much more personal scale. So like healthcare. So everyone's like, oh, the American healthcare system in particular is broken. But it's things like the power of AI that allows us to do human augmentation, not just optimization. In other words, see things that humans otherwise wouldn't see. So we have all of this genetic data, all of this disease data, millions upon trillions of data points. There's no way a single human can delve through that. But deep neural nets and advanced AI, they can. And they can spot onset of disease and onset of, all of these different types of illnesses much earlier than we can. So I'm hoping that will be a boon for humanity as well. That's another really interesting aspect.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of podcasts, obviously a lot of these kind of like pop psychology podcasts, they talk about how AI shit is going to destroy the world. Let's talk about the positive things, right? It's actually going to be a big benefit to society. What I'd like to know your opinion as well. I know we're going really off topic here with regards to your own business. I will definitely come back to it before the end. But do you see like the divide between the haves and the haves not getting bigger in terms of AI? What I mean by that is obviously the leaders in AI are, the West, primarily the United States, in China as well. But, the traditional global South, these so-called poorer countries in the world, they are not going to get access to AI anytime soon. So the question is, can AI be a positive for the world at kind of scale? Or is it going to be another one of those technologies that's very much concentrated in the first world? And we, as people living in the first world, have a kind of duty and a responsibility to disperse it across the world to the best of our abilities.
Wow, this is an interesting question. I believe that organically, AI won't be spread to third world countries because even internet, as we can remember, appeared Vodafone, as far as I remember, according to like case, it appeared in Africa only like 3 or 4, 5 years after the appearance in Europe and in the West. So what I'm trying to say is that it is still controlled, and until those monopolies of having AI have a desire to spread it or have a goal of why they want to spread it, I believe that it won't be spread, unfortunately, by government. However, you mentioned a really cool point that we, as those who constantly use it and have a chance to use it, have this responsibility of sharing it. And I would say that if before we had all those missions of spreading pure internet, pure water and food, that probably it would become so urgent to share AI because the level of life in US, in Europe, would be so high in comparison with those countries, for instance, Africa, that otherwise they would not be able even to survive. The same as with water, the AI, I believe, would be the same necessity people should have in order to continue living. And I'm not saying just for their, I know, like having fun or something, just because all of the jobs would be related to it. And that's an interesting point because I was recently discussing it with my friend that even in the West, even in here in Europe, we can say that people who work, for instance, in Amazon, in plants, those who did something manually, even they, being here in megapolises, they have to adapt to this technology. And otherwise, they would lose their jobs. So the same related to African countries. So answering your question, I believe that nothing gonna happen without a desire or a goal. If there is a goal of sharing it, there would be a spread of it. Otherwise, other like people and citizens of the world should spread it as also as a mission of, water spreading, for instance. Unfortunately.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's all about incentives of the people in power. And is there an incentive to actually spread it around the world? We can live in this kind of utopia fantasy where we want everyone to live equally, but I think thousands of years of history has shown that it will be unequal until we have an upheaval of world order or something crazy happens, right? And we can hope to see what happens. But Jade, I want to bring it back to the start again. Talking about ops, fascinating story, a really interesting learning about you. Can you talk about, maybe this is a kind of two-part question, an area that you want to improve on? So, in your operation, kind of all your experiences back when you were at Fuel, now starting your own business, are there any skills that you noticed that are your own blind spots in terms of, okay, I really need to improve this? Speak to my friend the other day and he said, he's fantastic coder, really good, multiple languages, very advanced, but he's not very good with the social skills. And he identified that. He's like, I need to go to more networking events. I need to put myself out there more. I need to speak to more people. This is a big blind spot of mine. So what would you say in the operations realm is a big blind spot of yours? And then after that, I do want to ask, what skill is a blind spot in your own personal life as well that you try to improve?
Okay, good. Such cool questions today, James. Thank you. So if we speak about blind spots in operations, I would say that the first thing, I'm good in selling right now because I understand pain points and I know how to solve founders' pain points. But the blind spot here is that I need to narrow my services down to some of the things I usually provide founders with. And meaning that I cannot be an expert in sales operations. For instance, I cannot advise them on all the outbound tools, or I cannot advise them on all the recruitment tools, for instance. I can help them understand the process and what is required for this process, so simultaneously they can have an expert internally who will recommend them what should be installed. And that's what I got right now. I have sold so many things to my clients, and right now I am doing so much in order to understand how to provide them with the expected result. Then the next thing is to narrow down a little bit and not to cover all their pain points, but be more expert in some things. And that's kind of my weak side, because I am kind of trying to solve everything. Simultaneously, it takes a lot of time, a lot of my effort. However, I can be just good, as you mentioned, in few business models and choose which I love the most and work with them instead of constantly trying to occupy more and more business models. And another thing, attention to details. I have written so many instructions, procedures, and I do this good. But when I'm tired and I am not motivated right now to write all of them because it's kind of manual work and I already know how to do this. Therefore, I went to consulting so others people do this. So still, I understand that if I need to write them, sometimes I can lose this attention to details, and that's the most important thing for me to understand. How can I delegate writing those processes, procedures, and descriptions, and how to teach people how to do this instead of doing it on my own, not to not to work on my weak sides, but develop my strong sides.
Well, that's a really nice point. Leaning into your strengths as well,
Yeah.
without letting your weak spots become a blind spot. And then
Yeah.
and then the same question then, but in your personal life, because we all talk about work. You're a startup founder. I know most of your waking hours, if not all your waking hours, are thinking about your business. What's next? What's on the horizon? What you're doing today? It's very hard to think about other stuff outside. But if I had to say, what kind of hobby or skill outside of work that you're already working on that is your kind of passion project at the moment, what would it be?
I have so many passions, and props. I've shared with you earlier that I want to go to Hollywood and be an actor. And because of actress and because of this, I started courses here in UK. But I want to restart visiting them because I went there just once, but I enjoyed it that much that I want to be back to that. But the weakness here and blind spot here is that I don't do any sport already for 2 months and a half besides carver, like a type of skate. That's awful because I have a pain in my back, in my necks, everywhere. But I am honest, I don't do anything with this. I just started searching for stretching and for Pilates here. That's one thing. And another thing, before I had a cool routine of, how to say, going and sleeping at 11 p.m. But right now, because I work until 10 or until 11, I want to get rest after that and to watch a movie, for instance. Therefore, sometimes I go to bed at 12. And after that, I would be honest, and the next day, I can be the angriest person, and I don't want to show it. Therefore, everything is caught inside me. But still, it's not houses. It's two things which which I have right now because of the business. But I hope that as my main goal of starting and launching business was to have freedom. So I hope that in 2 weeks I scheduled museum on Tuesday and art gallery visit on Friday, I believe. So you can ask me in 2 weeks if I will keep my promises on doing that.
Avoiding burnout is the most essential thing. And from the two things you said there, the first one is like, yeah, I have those periods. I train all the time, but then I've been ill this week, so I haven't trained in like a week. And even in that time, you can feel your body start to get stiff. A little bit of back pain. You sit in this chair for 12 hours. You do like 500 steps a day from the bathroom to your desk to the kitchen, this kind of thing, right? It's horrible. So yoga is fantastic for me. I try and do like anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes a day. Just really stretch it out. Static stretching, hold the position, each one for like 3 minutes. It's a great app, Flyability. I'm plugging it for free here, but it's a fantastic app. I'll send it to you after. Goes through like all these different routines. I absolutely love it. And the second one as well is you want to have like rest after your day, right? And from kind of, you said like watching a movie from 11 to 12 p.m. I used to beat myself up over that. I don't think you should, because I think it's essential that, this is your relaxing time. If you don't have this time and you live life, I've been there, you've been there, where you live life like, 9 a.m. to 10, I must do this, I must do this at blocks of time. This works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time. It's not sustainable. You have to give yourself, time to enjoy yourself and relax and follow the you're excited about. I think a good example of that for me would be if I'm working on like coding or I'm working on a project and I say, okay, I'm going to get an early night tonight and stop at 12 p.m. and go to bed straight away. But I'm getting really into it, and I'm learning and I'm making lots of progress, and it ends up being 2 a.m. So what? As long as you don't have commitments in the morning, you can just sleep in and do it again. And it doesn't really matter, because if you're in your flow state and you're making a lot of progress and you're really feeling it in the moment, the time doesn't matter. I think those are the times, the hours of the day where you really have to put your time in. I speak to a lot of people when you watch these like YouTube videos, you listen to experts as well. They say like figure out the flow state for yourself. So figure out if you're a morning person, you work best in the afternoon, you work best in the evening, and build your day as much as you can, obviously, around that. So if you know that you're better in the evenings and you have more energy then try and maybe schedule your calls in the late afternoon to try and get your deep work done in the evening. this kind of thing. Instead of having to follow this arbitrary like 9 to 5, 9 to 9, whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not all suited for, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's cool instructions and life hacks. Yeah, because usually I have still in my mind, because I was working like for 6 years, full-time employee. I usually think that, 9 at least. And then I don't care that I'm not a full-time employee anymore, that I can get up just at 5 or 4. So it works for me just on one side, that I have to start at 9 at least.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I went through a phase where I was like starting at 6:30 as well. I went to the gym before, but I can't do it. I can only do like one day a week. It's so hard to keep up with that because I'm a night person. But Jane, it's been so fantastic having you on. Been great to catch up. Obviously, we met about a year ago at SaaStock in the event. Would love to meet you again in person soon. But let's wrap up then with, one piece of advice you give to someone who is in your position. So I'm talking about someone who's working at a corporate or a startup. They have the skills, they've been working for, 5 years. They're thinking about starting their own agency, their own business, their own service. What piece of advice would you give to them?
It's so like obvious or primitive, but the main thing I want to tell those people that ask yourself questions. Why? Because if you ask me a year ago, I wouldn't say that it's high time for me to start a startup, or because even though I had 5 years of experience, and probably I was the same Jane as I am right now, like I mean in skills, but only in 6 years, when I asked myself, am I ready now? I had a yes question, and that's the highest level of understanding yourself as an individual. What do you want now? Props, you can work for a startup for 10 years and that can be your answer. And if it's honest, this variant will work out for you. But if the answer is, yes, I want to launch my startup, I would say that don't think about any borders. Forget about them. There is nothing what can limit yourself. And if you want to be founder of $1 million startup, okay, 1 trillion, that's okay. But that's just a funny example with money. But I'm saying if you want to go to a world round trip, that's possible. And that's the main insight I got before I launched OpsLab. The trigger you asked me before, and that's just now I realized. So the minute I understood that I can do anything, and now I can go for a world round trip, for instance. The moment I understood that, yeah, I'm ready to start my own startup.
Amazing, powerful words. Nothing more to add there. You said it so well. But thanks so much, Jane, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for such cool questions. It was so many insights personally for me that I have to write down some notes after our meeting to think about some questions even afterwards. Thank you, James. It was so organic.
You always want to leave. You always want to leave with more questions, right?
Yes.
That's how you know it's good.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really my pleasure.
Take care, Jane. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, thank you, James. Bye.